lesson, I want to talk about the divine blueprint in terms of our individuality. The concept of the divine blueprint, our personal identity here on planet Earth, and what we talk about when we discuss the ego. And the reason that I want to bring this up, I was typing some messages back this morning from comments of viewers. And something that came to mind is that I'm not sure that this has been properly presented in terms of the highest form of teachings in this particular way. So let's first deconstruct what the divine blueprint is and what it means and how it is so sacred, so needed, and so celebrated in the celestial realms. So the divine blueprint of what it is that you are. We can call it the soul, we can call it your essence, we can call it your spirit, but essentially this is like your fingerprint in terms of your energetic signature, that thing that you are. You are this individual creation. There is nothing like you anywhere else in the universe, and you are a beautiful semblance of that energy, which is you. And again, in higher dimensions, in the highest form of thinking in terms of the calibration of thought forms here on planet Earth, the soul is the most beautiful emanation of creation. And just to give a little bit of an extra layer to this wisdom, all organic life has this essence. All organic life holds within it this divine blueprint, or this sacred nature of that unique self. So all animal life, all plant life, all organic life on the planet holds within it this divine spark. And so then we must next unpack what the ego is and what that construct of the ego mind represents in terms of our ascension process and in terms of our understanding of the ego as a tool of understanding the self. So the ego is the construct of the lower vibrational thought forms which make up a distorted version of that divine blueprint. Now, this distortion is allowed in the system of free will, because you have to think of it like a parent, okay? A parent will allow within a truly free system of the development of its child, a parent will allow its children or allow its child to make certain mistakes or to try things out. You know, it's climbing on the monkey bars, or it's, you know, doing something in terms of drawing a picture. And the wise parent understands that even though the drawing, or even though when the child, scrapes its knee and falls, it is in the process of learning. And the monkey bars or the paper and pencil are simply a tool for the child to learn discernment and learn how to operate within its unique blueprint, to unravel itself. So this is essentially how, or a good comparison to what the ego is for us as human beings. We are allowing ourselves to project all sorts of thought forms, emotions, and so the value of, or the usefulness of emotions when we think of our thought forms is that emotions are the energy behind the thought form. So when we have any particular thought form, the emotion comes in to create this sort of momentum or gravity behind the lesson, so that our soul can deeply affirm that lesson and deeply understand what it is that we are learning in the construct of our third dimensional reality here on planet Earth. Now, Okay, so we've unpacked this idea of ego. We're sort of starting to understand the ego is a tool. The ego can sometimes certainly get in our way, but the goal or the lesson of Earth School is essentially to supersede the ego, to understand the ego for what it is, and by or through the mechanism, through the lens of duality, to eradicate distortion and choose correctly. And when I say choose correctly, I don't want to assert that there is an evil or a wrong or a bad decision. All I want to teach is that certain thought forms calibrate to a certain level of existence. So the more high vibrational the thought forms, obviously the more blissful, more beautiful the actual manifestation of these thought forms into our greater reality become. And actually, I'm getting a lot of sun in through this window, so I'm actually going to change where I'm filming this, because I'm just finding, as beautiful as the light is, it's becoming a little bit distracting, so just bear with me. So I had to move how I was filming a little bit. I know this backdrop isn't as beautiful as the other one, but for the sake of being efficient with the timing, I'm just going to do this quickly. So a lot of teachers are giving a little bit of distortion in terms of how they are teaching about the ego, almost having the students here on earth think that there must be a death of the self or a dissolution of the self. And we're confusing the idea of ego with the divine blueprint or identity. Your uniqueness, your divine resonance is the purpose of its creation is not so that you dissolve it and you become nothingness and you enter into this void and merge with all oneness. Yes, we want to acclimate ourselves into these higher and higher vibrational thought forms. That means beautiful thoughts towards others, beautiful thoughts towards ourselves, beautiful protective thoughts for all of creation, all of planet Earth, and the extension beyond planet Earth in terms of the cosmos. All of our thinking, when it is calibrated at this extremely high level, leads to a more beautiful semblance of what creation will become. But when we think about this idea of total dissolution of the self, so envision the Buddha or some of these teachings where it's almost taught that the individual dissolves into the greater oneness. There is a certain confusion in this that I think perhaps human beings don't truly understand. And I believe that the understanding that is currently available in terms of these teachings is that essentially the unique blueprint, the soul identity, the soul kind of loses itself, and everything that it has learned in its journey across the cosmos sort of becomes null and void, and that it just sort of merges into the great one, or the great source of all. And that's not exactly how it works. And certainly that's not the purpose of creation. We don't meld into this void where everything that we have accumulated just ceases to exist. Everything that you are, once your divine blueprint has been established in terms of its birthing within the cosmic system, within our universal system, it holds within it this unique light that is only you, that has traveled throughout lifetimes, throughout different forms, throughout dimensions, and what you are will always continue on. There is no end to what you are. It is eternal. And I'm going to, layer another caveat to this. The human mind, the actual physical three-dimensional construct, physical, biological mind that we have, the tool of the mind, cannot conceive this. That is purposeful because it is beyond the lesson of duality. It is beyond the comprehension of what a being can learn in this particular dimensionality. So just let it be, let it go, let the understanding of eternity and infinity just rest as a fact. It is a fact. It does exist. Your existence is eternal, meaning that you can never be destroyed. You will never cease to be, which is an extremely peaceful thought, an extremely peaceful teaching, to just rest in the beautiful divine knowledge that what you are, what you have been, what you will be, will never cease to exist. You are part of that cosmic symphony that continues on. However, you are here to learn specific lessons. You are here to become all that you can be and to gain the deepest understanding that is possible in third dimensional reality. And so I'm going to go back to the teaching of ego, the teachings that, again, the ego must be destroyed at all costs, that the ego is somehow the enemy, that the ego is working against us, and we must dissolve it, and we must become this fluid, non-identified entity. And this is not in correlation to bliss, joy, experience, happiness. And I'm going to explain why in the next portion of this lesson. Okay, so if we can understand that the ego is a beautiful tool, the ego, which is also the mechanism that can, integrate those lower thought forms within duality. We synthesize these lower thought forms through the lens of the ego for a purpose. The purpose is that we learn by contrast. So when we experience jealousy or hate or condemnation or any of these, sadness, grief, guilt, by understanding these attributes of consciousness, we can formulate higher calibrations of divine thought. And we do this through the contrast principle. When we identify the opposite of, it gives us a greater breadth of understanding of that beautiful, higher level thinking. So the lesson is really, really simple. The ego can attack, the ego can become jealous, the ego can become fearful, the ego can precipitate a lot of really low vibrational thoughts, low vibrational thought forms. And when we are continually cycling in these lower vibrational types of thinking, what will happen with our actions is they will become lower vibrational actions, because of course all action or all thoughts precede action. And so essentially, again, what is happening on planet Earth when we see these attack actions that are happening, when we see human beings attacking other human beings, when we see human beings destroying other life forms, this is essentially a playing out of the lower vibrational imagery that the mind is creating. Now, when we are individually attacking the other or turning that attack inwards and attacking the self, because that can happen as well through the thought forms of the ego. And from that point, we can also look at that mass consciousness when we are coming together as a collective, when a group of human beings are collectively attacking each other, so attacking other groups, other tribes, other peoples. These types of thought forms playing out on the landscape of our three-dimensional reality, they are difficult. These are very, very difficult lessons, and they're very painful lessons, and there's a lot of suffering. And these lessons and this suffering, it does keep us in this karmic cycle, because when karma is created, so karma thinking, we can think of that as essentially bad debt in terms of our actions. We have to cycle through these karmic lessons, and we would move into, in our next lifetimes, a situation where we become the other. So let's say in this lifetime, for example, you are somebody that is attacking a person. You are a violent individual, maybe a violent husband, and you're attacking your wife, and you're hurting her, and you're abusing her, and you're being mentally abusive to your wife. Well, what will undoubtedly happen in terms of the karmic system is when you're reincarnated, you will come back in a similar situation, only now you will be at the hands of a perpetrator of this type of violence. But usually in terms of the karmic system, to deeply ingrain the lesson, it will be magnified, okay? So the lesson within the karmic system will be magnified, and your consciousness, your individual consciousness, will need to go through that lesson, and you will keep learning that lesson until it is deeply ingrained within you in the form of compassion and understanding. So once we start to elevate to that level of compassion and understanding, we have essentially graduated from that particular lesson. Now, let's take it a stage further. Perhaps you are a human being and you are in a state where you feel no responsibility for other life forms, plant life, animal life, and you simply do not honor the spirit in other species. This can certainly play out in a lifetime, but what will happen in terms of the karmic system is, let's say you were working in a meat plant, and you were continually seeing these cows cycled through this meat plant. These cows were watching their family members being systematically their lives taken, and it was one after the other, and this was a lot of pain and suffering for that particular species. In that subsequent lifetime, you would be reincarnated into a similar situation. Now, it may not be on this planet, it may be in different planetary form, it may be a different situation, but undoubtedly you would have to experience the pain, the suffering that your essence inflicted on another, so that you could deeply integrate that lesson. So that's why it's so important with each and every action that we take, that we are essentially living out the highest principle that our current calibration of understanding actually acclimates to. And here's an example. Anytime, anywhere, wherever I am, I'm always going to protect and honor all life forms. If I'm in the swimming pool, we're here in the tropics, and there's an ant or a bug or something that falls in the pool, I am always going to do to the other as I would like done unto myself. So I will quickly rescue that life form, and I will show the natural world that I am here as a protector, as a guardian of all life. I do not hold any life form on a hierarchy above myself. My life is here to protect and honor all life, and therefore my service and my servitude to the natural world, to what is life on this planet, is complete. It's total. I don't piecemeal out my love, my unconditional love for life, to just human beings. It is a unilateral love of all creation, for every aspect of creation. And that is the highest lesson that I've integrated into this lifetime for myself. And, I'm very, very excited, obviously, at the point when I will move on to different lessons in higher dimensional realities as well. A caveat to this, that doesn't mean, and I've been aware of individuals that will go into a certain thought system and envision the dissolution of the ego and the dissolution of the self, and completely misunderstand the teaching and essentially destroy the body, whether it is through an act of suicide or mass suicide in the cases of a cult culture, where they are completely disregarding the actual lesson, or just their consciousness cannot understand what the lesson is. So they play that lesson out in three-dimensional reality in a really distorted way. So again, life is to be honored, the body is to be honored, and that means to honor the self and all others. So we protect and we honor our body in this three-dimensional form, just as we protect and honor all other forms of life, because life is this beautiful creation energy. The beauty that we see in the reflection of all other things is divine love, is the divine blueprint of creation, this force of absolute artistry. So hopefully this message makes sense to you. But after typing some messages out to some of the viewers on the channel, I really wanted to delve into this particular lesson.